He dragged her by the arm, out of his own mansion gate. Rain was falling. Her clothes were wet. Her slippers were broken. She did not fight him. She did not scream. She only looked back one more time. Because inside that mansion, a 6-year-old girl was screaming a name. Not Daddy. Not Uncle. She was screaming. Mom. Mom, don't let them take her. Mom. The billionaire froze at the gate. Because his wife had been dead for 4 years. So who was this poor woman his daughter was calling Mom? Stay with me. By the end of this story, you will cry. You will be angry. And you will finally understand why some silence protects more than it destroys. This is the story of Amaka, the woman they threw away twice. The Obi mansion stood on top of the hill in Lekki, gold gates, marble floors, a fountain that never stopped running even at midnight. Chief Kingsley Obi owned 3 companies, 2 private jets, and a name that made bank managers stand up straight when he walked in. But inside that mansion, one small girl had not smiled in almost a year. Her name was Zuri. She was 6 years old. Her mother had died in a car accident when she was 2. She barely remembered her face. She only remembered silence, nannies who came and went, and a father who worked too much to notice that his daughter had stopped talking at school. Then Amaka came. She was 30 years old, thin from years of hard living, with tired eyes that still knew how to smile. She was hired as a temporary kitchen helper, nothing more. She was not supposed to go near the child. The head housekeeper, Madame Florence, made that very clear on her first day. You are here to cook and clean, Madame Florence said. Not to touch Miss Zuri. Not to speak to Miss Zuri. Do you understand? I understand, Amaka said quietly. But children find kindness the way plants find sunlight. One evening, Zuri wandered into the kitchen looking for something to eat, and found Amaka humming an old village song while she washed rice. Zuri stood in the doorway and listened. For the first time in months, her tight little shoulders relaxed. What song is that? Zuri asked. Amaka turned, surprised, then smiled gently. It's a song my mother used to sing to me. Do you want to hear it again? Zuri nodded. That was the beginning. Every evening after that, Zuri found her way to the kitchen. Amaka told her stories. Amaka braided her hair. Amaka noticed when she was sad, and asked why, and listened like the answer actually mattered. Nobody else in that house had asked Zuri why in a long time. Within 3 months, Zuri was talking at school again. Her teachers called Chief Obi to say how much she had improved. He was proud, but too busy to ask exactly why. He should have asked. Because Madame Florence had noticed too. And Madame Florence did not like it. That kitchen girl is getting too close to Miss Zuri, she told Chief Obi one night, choosing her words carefully. People like that, they know how to work their way into a rich house. First it's the child's affection. Then it's gifts. Then it's money. I have seen it before, sir. Chief Obi frowned. Are you saying she's using my daughter? I'm saying you should be careful, Madame Florence said. A poor woman getting close to a rich man's only child, in a house like this, it never ends simply, sir. The seed was planted. For weeks, Chief Obi watched from a distance, saying nothing, but his eyes had changed. He no longer saw a kind woman helping his lonely daughter. He saw a threat. He saw someone plotting. That is what money does. It teaches you to be afraid of kindness, because you have learned that most kindness in your world has a price attached. Then came the night everything broke. Zuri had a fever. Amaka, without asking anyone, sat by her bed the whole night, changing the cold cloth on her forehead, holding her hand until she fell asleep. In the morning, Chief Obi walked in and found Amaka asleep in the chair beside his daughter's bed, her hand still holding Zuri's small fingers. He did not see love. He saw opportunity. What is she doing in my daughter's room? He shouted, waking both of them. Amaka jumped up, startled. Sir, she had a fever, I only wanted to. You only wanted to get closer to my daughter, he said coldly. You only wanted to make her depend on you. So that one day you can ask me for money, or worse, take her from me. I have seen women like you before. That is not true, Amaka said, her voice trembling. I never asked you for anything. I never will. Get out of my house, he said. Now. Zuri sat up in bed, confused and terrified. Daddy, what are you doing? Leave her alone. Zuri, stay out of this. No. She takes care of me. You don't. She's the only one who. Enough, he roared. 2 security men were called. They walked Amaka down the stairs, through the long marble hallway, past the fountain, toward the gate. She did not resist. She did not beg. She simply walked with her head down, tears falling silently. That was when Zuri broke free from her nanny's grip and ran. She ran down the stairs in her pajamas, bare feet slapping against the cold marble, screaming with everything a 6-year-old's lungs could hold. MOM. MOM, don't let them take her. MOM. The whole house went silent. Chief Obi turned slowly, his hand still on the gate. What did you just call her? He asked, his voice suddenly small. Zuri was crying too hard to answer clearly. She only ran to Amaka and wrapped her small arms around her waist, refusing to let go. Please don't send her away, Zuri sobbed. Please, Daddy. She's my mom. She has to be my mom. Nobody else stays. Rain began to fall. Chief Obi stood frozen at his own gate, staring at the woman he had just called a liar, a schemer, a threat, and at his daughter, clinging to her like she was the only solid thing left in the world. For the first time in years, Chief Kingsley Obi did not know what to do. He did not send her away that night. Not because he suddenly trusted her, but because his daughter would not let go of her waist, and no security man in that house was willing to pull a crying child off a woman in the rain while the whole street watched. Bring them both inside, he finally said, his voice flat. Inside, in his study, he sat across from Amaka like a judge across from a criminal. Explain yourself, he said. Why did my daughter call you mom? Amaka wiped her face, took a breath, and chose her next words carefully. Sir, I never taught her to call me that. Children give names to the love they receive. I only gave her attention. She gave me a title I never asked for. That is a beautiful answer, he said, his voice sharp with sarcasm. But I did not ask for poetry. I asked for the truth. That is the truth. He studied her face for a long moment. Something about her felt strangely familiar, though he could not place why. What is your full name? He asked slowly. Amaka Chinyere. His hand, resting on the desk, went still. Ease, he repeated quietly. Where are you from? Umwahia, sir. A small village near the river. The room felt colder suddenly. Your mother, he said carefully. What was her name? Amaka blinked, confused by the sudden shift in his questions. Why does that matter to you, sir? Answer me. Her name was Mama Ngozi. She passed away 6 years ago. Chief Obi stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. He walked to the window, his back turned, his shoulders tense. Leave us, he told the housekeeper who lingered by the door. She left, confused. When they were alone, he turned back to Amaka, his eyes searching her face like he was trying to read an old letter. 6 years ago, he said slowly, I paid a woman named Ngozi a large sum of money. My family arranged it. I was told it was compensation, for a mistake that had to be erased quietly. Amaka's breath caught in her throat. What mistake? She whispered. I do not know the details, he admitted. My mother handled everything. I only signed the papers because I trusted her. I was young. I was foolish. I never asked enough questions. What was the mistake? Amaka asked again, her voice rising, shaking now. Tell me what you know. He turned fully to face her. There was a woman my late wife's family paid off, years before I even married her. A woman who had a baby that the family decided was inconvenient. I did not know her name until tonight. I did not know her face. The room spun around Amaka. Inconvenient, she repeated, the word tasting like poison. That is what you called a child? Inconvenient? I did not call anyone anything, he said quickly. I am telling you what I was told. What is it you are trying to say, Amaka? Tears streamed silently down her face now. I had a daughter, she said, her voice breaking. 8 years ago. Her father's family paid my mother to disappear with the baby. They said if we ever came back, they would destroy us. My mother took me away that same week. She never told me his name. She said it was for my safety. Chief Obi's face turned pale. What happened to the baby? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. She was taken from me before I could even hold her properly, Amaka said, sobbing now. They told me she died. My mother believed it until the day she died herself. I have grieved a daughter for 8 years. Chief Obi sat down slowly, as if his legs had lost all strength. Zuri is 6, he said quietly. Not 8. Amaka looked up sharply. What? My daughter, Zuri, she is 6 years old. Not 8. This cannot be the same story. Relief and confusion crashed into Amaka at the same time. Then who? I don't know, Chief Obi admitted. But I know someone who does. My mother. For the next few weeks, something shifted in that house. Chief Obi did not apologize with words. Men like him rarely do. Instead, he apologized with actions. He told Madame Florence that Amaka was staying, permanently, as Zuri's official companion and caregiver. He raised her pay without telling her, simply depositing it and letting her discover it later. He began coming home earlier. And slowly, quietly, he began to watch Amaka differently. Not as a threat. As a woman. One evening, he found her in the garden, teaching Zuri how to fold paper birds, laughing at Zuri's clumsy attempts, patient in a way he had never learned to be. You're good with her, he said, standing at a distance. Amaka looked up, startled, then smiled carefully. She's good with me too, sir. I think we needed each other. Please, he said. Stop calling me sir. My name is Kingsley. It was a small thing. But in that house, it felt enormous. Over the following weeks, small warm moments grew between them. He asked about her life in the village. She asked about his late wife, gently, respectfully. He told her about the loneliness of running 3 companies and coming home to silence every night. She told him about the loneliness of losing a child and never being allowed to grieve properly, because grief costs money, and poor people are not given permission to fall apart. You are the strongest woman I have ever met, he told her one night, sitting across from her on the veranda, the fountain glowing softly behind them. I am not strong, she said quietly. I simply had no other choice but to keep walking. That is what strength is, he said. Not the absence of pain. Just refusing to stop. For the first time since his wife died, Chief Kingsley Obi felt something warm bloom in his chest. But warmth like that never lasts long in a house full of secrets. Old Madame Regina Obi, Kingsley's mother, arrived at the mansion without warning one Sunday afternoon, her expensive lace dress sweeping the floor as she walked. She took one look at Amaka sitting with Zuri in the living room and her face went rigid. Kingsley, she said sharply. A word. Now. In the study, she did not waste time. Do you know who that woman is? She demanded. I know her name is Amaka, he said calmly. I know she loves my daughter. That is all that matters to me. That is not all that matters, Regina snapped. That woman's mother was paid to disappear 8 years ago. Do you understand what will happen if people find out the connection between this family and that village girl? There is no scandal in kindness, mother. There is scandal in truth, Kingsley. Do you think people will believe it was innocent? They will say you brought your dead wife's family shame right back into this house. They will say worse things about Zuri's mother's memory. Is that what you want for your daughter's future? Kingsley's jaw tightened. What exactly happened 8 years ago, Mother? Tell me the truth, all of it, right now. Regina's face flickered, just for a second, with something that looked almost like fear. It does not matter anymore, she said, turning away. The past is buried. Let it stay buried. It matters to me, Kingsley said, his voice low and dangerous now. Because a woman is grieving a child she believes is dead. And I want to know why. Regina was silent for a long moment. Then she said the words that would break the house apart. Because your wife's younger sister, Adiz, got pregnant before she was married. The family could not allow that shame. So we paid a village woman named Ngozi, who was working for us at the time, to claim the baby as her granddaughter's child, and disappear far away, so no one would trace the child back to this family. We told Amaka the baby died to stop her from searching. It was cleaner that way. Kingsley stared at his mother in horror. You mean, he said slowly, Amaka's baby did not die. She is alive. And she has been raised somewhere, calling another family her own, while Amaka has spent 8 years mourning a lie. It was necessary, Regina said coldly. Necessary for who? Kingsley shouted. For your reputation? While an innocent woman cried herself to sleep every night for 8 years? Watch your tone with me, Kingsley Obi. No, he said, standing tall now, something new hardening in his voice. I have watched my tone my whole life to protect this family's name. I watched my tone while you threw kindness out of my gate and called it danger. I am done watching my tone, Mother. Where is the child? Regina's silence was its own confession. She is with Adiz, she finally admitted. Living as her daughter. In London. The truth could not stay locked in that study forever. 2 weeks later, the extended Obi family gathered for the annual family charity gala, held in the grand ballroom of the Obi Grand Hotel, the very hotel Kingsley owned. Every important name in Lagos society was there, bankers, politicians, old family friends, and Adiz, Kingsley's sister-in-law, who had flown in from London with her daughter, a bright 11-year-old girl named Chidinma. Amaka came that night too, invited by Kingsley himself, standing quietly at his side in a simple blue dress that still made half the room whisper about the maid being seated at the family table. Why is she here? One of the aunties whispered loudly enough for Amaka to hear. Kingsley has really lowered this family's standard. Village girl, another sneered. Wearing borrowed jewelry probably. Someone should tell her to know her place. Amaka kept her head high, though her hands trembled slightly under the table. Kingsley noticed. He reached over and gently took her hand in his, in front of everyone. She knows exactly her place, he said loudly enough for the nearby tables to hear. Right beside me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Regina, seated at the head table, gripped her wine glass tightly, watching the scandal she had tried so hard to prevent unfold in front of 300 guests. Then Kingsley stood, tapped his glass, and the room slowly quieted for what everyone assumed would be a normal charity speech. It was not. Before we continue tonight's program, Kingsley began, his voice steady, I want to tell you all a story. A true story. About a woman who was paid to disappear 8 years ago, and the daughter she was told had died. Adiz's face went white. Regina stood halfway from her chair. Kingsley, sit down. I will not sit down, Mother. Not tonight. He turned to Adiz. Chidinma is not your daughter, is she, Adiz? The entire ballroom fell into stunned silence. Adiz's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She is your sister's daughter, Kingsley continued, his voice carrying across the marble floor. Born to a woman named Amaka, who was working in this family's house 8 years ago. A woman this family paid to vanish, then lied to, telling her the baby had died, so that none of you would have to explain an unmarried pregnancy to society. This is outrageous, Regina hissed. Kingsley, you are humiliating this family. No, Mother, Kingsley said, turning to face her directly. You humiliated this family the day you decided a woman's grief was smaller than your reputation. I am simply telling the truth you buried. Amaka stood slowly, tears streaming down her face, staring at the young girl across the room, the daughter she had grieved for 8 long years, now standing confused and frightened in an unfamiliar family's shadow. Chidinma looked back at her, something ancient and unspoken passing between them, the way blood sometimes recognizes blood before the mind understands why. Mummy, Chidinma said quietly to Adiz, why is that woman looking at me like that? Adiz burst into tears and ran from the ballroom. The gala that was meant to celebrate the Obi family's generosity to the poor had instead exposed exactly how the Obi family had once treated one poor woman, and the room, full of powerful people who moments ago had whispered insults about the village girl, now stared at Amaka with an entirely different kind of silence. The days after the gala were the hardest of Amaka's life. DNA results confirmed what her heart already knew, Chidinma was hers. 8 years stolen. 8 birthdays missed. 8 years of a little girl calling another woman mommy while her real mother believed she was mourning a grave that never existed. The court process to formally recognize Amaka as Chidinma's biological mother was slow and painful. Adiz fought it at first, out of fear and shame more than cruelty, but eventually broke down and admitted everything in front of the family lawyer, sobbing that she had been young, terrified, and told by her own mother that this was the only way to protect the family name. I am not asking to take her away suddenly, Amaka told Adiz quietly, the first time they spoke alone. I am only asking to finally exist in her life as what I am. Her mother. Even if it takes years for her to understand what that means. For Chidinma, the transition was slow and gentle, exactly the way it needed to be. Amaka did not force affection. She simply showed up, again and again, patient and warm, the same way she had once shown up for Zuri in a kitchen with no expectations attached. Slowly, 2 sisters who had never known of each other's existence began to bond, Zuri, who had called Amaka mom out of a lonely child's instinct, and Chidinma, who was only now learning that instinct had been telling the truth all along. Regina never fully apologized. Some people are too proud to bend, even when they are wrong. But she grew quiet in Amaka's presence, and quiet, from a woman like Regina, was its own kind of surrender. Kingsley, however, changed the most. I called you dangerous, he told Amaka one evening, months later, sitting together on the same veranda where their friendship had first grown warm. I called you a threat, the very night my daughter was choosing you as her mother with her whole heart. I am sorry it took me so long to see what she already knew. You were protecting her the only way you knew how, Amaka said gently. Fear makes good people do foolish things. I do not hate you for it, Kingsley. You should, he said. I threw you out into the rain. And you brought me back into the light, she answered. I choose to remember that part. He took her hand, the same way he had done at the gala, but this time there was no crowd to prove a point to. Just 2 people who had both lost more than they should have, learning slowly how to trust again. I am not offering you a job anymore, he said quietly. I am offering you a home. A real one. With 2 daughters who already love you, and a man who is only now learning how to love someone the right way. Will you stay, Amaka? Not as the help. Not as a secret. As my wife, if you'll have me. Amaka's tears fell freely now, but they were not the tears of a woman being thrown into the rain. They were the tears of a woman finally being let all the way in. I will stay, she whispered. I have spent 8 years learning how to survive without a home. I think I am ready to learn how to live inside one again. 6 months later, the Obi mansion held another gathering, smaller this time, quieter, filled only with people who actually loved the family instead of people who feared its name. Zuri and Chidinma ran through the garden together, laughing, paper birds tied to strings above their heads, exactly like the ones Amaka had once folded with trembling hands in a kitchen where she was told she did not belong. Amaka stood at the veranda in a simple cream dress, watching her 2 daughters play under a sky finally clear of rain, Kingsley's hand resting gently on her shoulder. Mom. Zuri called out. Come play with us. Amaka smiled, tears gathering quietly in her eyes. She was no longer the woman dragged out into the rain. She was simply, finally, Mom. Some families throw love out of the gate, calling it a threat, never realizing that the very thing they cast into the rain was the only thing that could have made their house a home. Amaka lost everything once. But love, real love, always finds its way back to where it belongs.